Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have a question, but I see the cut. Do you feel fine? Where did that come from? Do you really know?
Yeah, it was in last fifth round, fourth round, with the head with the heads.
Okay. My question to you is, obviously you called out Mikey Garcia after the fight, but earlier in the week you mentioned Gervonta Davis, and you mentioned how you would fight him for free. Obviously, we know, you wouldn't actually fight him for free. But what are your thoughts on Gervonta Davis and a possible matchup? Because many people
ask Floyd Mayweather. He said the kid isn't ready yet for the fight. Floyd Mayweather is his promoter. Floyd Mayweather, if anybody, Jr., knows about boxing. The question of whether Gervonta Davis is ready to fight a master like Loma should be put to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Let him answer that question. Don't ask stupid stuff about Gervonta Davis when his promoter says he's not ready.
But I think Gervonta Davis, he's best of the best fighter in the Twitter.
This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I was letting you guys listen to the interview with Vasily Lomachenko and, of course, Bob Arum. And they were asking Loma if, what happened with his head. For those who don't know, he was stopped in the fifth round. Corolla was, and it was an impressive performance. It wasn't quick. It was a quick night. Loma showed speed. He showed he was back. He showed that he hasn't lost a step since the surgery, and that's a lot of people was banking on or whatnot. And, they asked him about Tank Davis because, these guys had a Twitter war. I covered that whole fiasco and back and forth thing. But, Bob Arum went ham, he's not ready for the fight. Ask Floyd, whoever Mayweather. And that's true. I mean, I think that, Floyd said he wasn't ready, so he's not ready. But the funny thing was, Loma has dry humor, as you can tell. He's not laughing or smiling. He was just like, I'm thinking he's going to say something like encouraging, like, oh, I think that Gervonta Tank Davis is good. The best fighter on Twitter. He said Twitter. That was funny because, the way he said it, he's just like, he runs his mouth on Twitter, but he's not doing anything. So, and like I stated, guys, earlier in my previous video, that Tank Davis hasn't done anything action-wise. You know what I mean? You're a champion at 130, okay? Loma was at 130. No one wanted that smoke. Now he's at 135. And, a lot of back and forth things happen with Mayweather, but he's flip-flop. He will be one way one day, and then the next day a totally different way. And I guess when he was pissed at Tank Davis, sure, he was ready to throw him in there, but I don't think Tank at that time, himself personally, was ready. I don't know about now, but if he's talking about making a fight, there hasn't been any action behind it. It's just been talk. But, well, I'm going to retire you in the ring, but, you haven't came to Floyd and told Floyd, like, hey, I want that fight. And it's really ultimately up to the fighters, though, to make a decision to have their own voice and their own mind. And then that's yet to be said about anybody from the PBC. You know what I mean? Except for Danny Jacobs is the exception because, and then, something funny, he's the only one that's doing shit. You know what I'm saying? He's the only one that made a step like, hey, I'm going to use Eddie Hearn as my promoter, and I'm going to use you as my advisor. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, Al Heyman didn't have a problem with him doing that, but it was ultimately up to Jacobs to make that decision for himself. Now he's fighting he's fighting the cash cow Canelo. Those other guys can't say that. You know what I mean? Think about it. You had both Charlos at 154, right? Canelo was there for the longest. None of those guys got the opportunity to face Canelo. The only person did was Lara, and he was the Al Heyman guy. But do you know why? Because Lara made his own mind to make his own decision to fight Canelo because he wanted to fight Canelo. So if Tank Davis is about that life and he really wants that smoke, he's going to have to do exactly what those guys did in order to make that fight happen. But yeah, it was a good comeback. Yeah, they did go hard on Tank. Said he was like the best at Twitter because he's not the only one he's got into it with on Twitter. You know, he's got into it with one of the Charlos on Twitter. You know, previous people, Wilder on Twitter. You know, he's got into it a lot of times on Twitter. So he does use his action on Twitter. So we need to see Gervonta Tank Davis's actions in the ring. You know, sign the dotted line, make the fight happen. But anyway, this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. You guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.